When someone mistreats you, logic says you should walk away. Your friends tell you you deserve better. Deep down, even you know it. And yet, you stay. Or worse, you chase. You wait for their reply. You replay conversations in your head. You keep holding on to the hope that one day they'll finally see your worth and treat you the way you deserve. This is one of the most painful traps you can fall into, because it's not just about them. It's about you. It's about the way your nervous system clings to the familiar, even if that familiar thing is chaos. It's about the way your ego refuses to let go of someone who keeps devaluing you. It's about how your brain confuses rejection with something worth fighting for. And the cruel part? The more badly they treat you, the deeper the hook sinks. Because now it's not just about love, it's about proving something to yourself. It's about not wanting to feel like you lost. That's why people chase the very ones who hurt them. Not because it makes sense, not because they don't see the red flags, but because their biology, their emotions, and their ego are all working against them. This cycle of chasing disrespect is the silent destroyer of peace. It steals your sleep, your confidence, your clarity, but once you see it for what it is, once you strip it of the illusion, it loses its power. That's what this video is about, uncovering the hidden forces that make you chase someone who treats you badly and showing you the stoic way to break free. So let's dive in. The first thing you need to understand is this: chasing someone who treats you badly is not always a conscious decision. It's not simply you being weak or stupid. It's your nervous system doing what it's been wired to do since childhood. When someone mistreats you, ignores you, insults you, pulls away, you feel pain. And your nervous system interprets that pain as danger. To your body, rejection feels like abandonment. And abandonment, biologically, has always meant a threat to survival. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, being cast out of your tribe meant death. Your brain hasn't updated that code. It still reacts as if losing connection equals losing safety. This is why you don't just walk away. Instead, your nervous system panics. It floods you with anxiety, with racing thoughts, with the desperate urge to fix it. You find yourself replaying what you said, checking your phone, waiting for them to reach out. It's not just habit. It's your biology trying to avoid what it perceives as danger, emotional exile. Now, here's where it gets tricky. When that person finally gives you crumbs of attention, a text, a smile, a call, it feels like relief. Your brain gets a dopamine hit, like water after a drought, and this creates the bond. This is how toxic cycles are reinforced. Pain, relief, hot, cold, ignore, then validate. And your nervous system gets hooked like an addict waiting for the next high. Stoic wisdom says the problem is not that pain exists, but that we misinterpret it. We treat it as a sign to cling tighter, when in reality, it should be a signal to detach. The Stoic path reminds us, if something hurts you more than it heals you, it is not love, it is a chain. Chains can feel familiar, chains can even feel comforting, but they're still chains. Once you realize your nervous system is not your master but a tool you must discipline, you can begin to break free. You stop letting your biology chase validation. Instead, you step into self-control, and you train yourself to endure the discomfort of rejection without reaching for the chain that binds you. And this is the first key. You are not weak for chasing someone who treats you badly. You are wired to, but just because you're wired to doesn't mean you have to obey. If your nervous system is the engine behind the chase, then your ego is the fuel that keeps it running. And this is where things get even more dangerous, because the ego hates rejection more than anything else. When someone mistreats you, especially if they ignore you or make you feel small, your ego doesn't just feel pain. It feels humiliation. It whispers, "How could they treat me like this? Don't they know who I am? I'll prove them wrong." Suddenly, you're no longer chasing the person. You're chasing validation of your own worth. The human ego thrives on recognition. It wants to be seen, admired, respected. When someone withholds that from you, especially someone you've invested in emotionally, the ego interprets it as an attack. Instead of saying, "They're not for me," it says, "I must win this back." And here's the trap. Every act of disrespect becomes a challenge. It's no longer about love, it's about conquest. The person becomes a mirror that reflects your self-worth. If they ignore you, you feel worthless. If they respond, you feel powerful. But notice what's happening here. You've outsourced your value to someone else's behavior. They control the mirror and you're trapped staring into it, desperate for a reflection that makes you feel enough. Stoic wisdom says, no one can diminish your worth unless you hand them the power. When you keep chasing someone who treats you badly, what you're really doing is handing them that power over and over again. You're saying, here, decide how I feel about myself today. That is why the disrespect cuts so deep. Because it's not just about them. It's about how your own mind interprets the slight. The ego doesn't want to walk away because walking away feels like losing. But here's the paradox. True strength lies in leaving, not in clinging. Walking away from someone who mistreats you is not defeat. It's reclaiming your power. The ego resists because it feeds on battles, but wisdom knows there's no battle to fight. There's only a door to close. This is why people stay stuck for months, years, even decades in toxic cycles. Their nervous system is wired for survival. Their ego is wired for victory. Together, they form a prison where the person who disrespects you becomes both the captor and the key. The moment you realize you don't need to prove your worth to anyone, the chains start to loosen. The ego's addiction to validation weakens. You stop running after those who mistreat you and begin walking toward those who honor you. One of the most powerful reasons people keep chasing someone who treats them badly isn't about who that person is right now. It's about who you believe they could be. This is the illusion of potential, and it's one of the most dangerous traps the human mind falls into. Think back to when things were good, or at least when they seemed good. Maybe it was the way they looked at you that one night. Maybe it was the rare moment of softness they showed after hurting you. Maybe it was the words they whispered when you were at your lowest, those fragments of affection, those breadcrumbs of love. They plant seeds of hope in your mind. And hope, when mixed with desperation, becomes a drug. Every time they pull away, your mind says, but I know the real them. I've seen their heart. If I just hold on, if I just love them harder, that side will come back. You start living in a cycle where you're not chasing the person in front of you. You're chasing the ghost of who they were in the beginning, or the dream of who they could become. The toxic partner knows this, consciously or unconsciously. They don't have to give you constant love to keep you hooked. They just have to give you enough. A smile after weeks of coldness, a compliment after days of silence, a promise they never intend to keep. These little drops of affection act like sparks in the dark. They reignite your hope and convince you to keep holding on. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive kind of conditioning there is. It's the same principle casinos use. You don't win every spin, you don't win every hand, but every so often you do. And it's just enough to keep you hooked, convinced the jackpot is just one more pull away. Toxic relationships work the same way. You're not in love with the mistreatment. You're addicted to the jackpot moments where they finally give you the attention or affection you crave. Stoic wisdom says, do not confuse hope with reality. Hope can blind you. It can chain you to a person who is not capable or not willing to give you the love you deserve. And the most dangerous kind of hope is not hope for yourself, but hope for someone else to change. Because change is not in your control. Your response, your choices, your boundaries, those are yours. But waiting for another person to transform into who you wish they were, that is surrendering your life to chance. The truth is brutal but freeing. The potential you see in them is not a contract. It's not a guarantee. It's not a promise of who they will become. It's an illusion. And the longer you chase it, the further you drift from reality and from your own peace. Breaking free from this illusion doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop betting your future on someone else's maybe. You accept them as they are, not as they could be. And in that acceptance, you reclaim your power. Because when you see clearly, you stop chasing ghosts. If you've ever wondered why you can't seem to break free from someone who mistreats you, even when every logical part of your brain is screaming that you should walk away, the answer lies in something far deeper than logic. It lies in your nervous system. It lies in trauma bonds. A trauma bond is formed when cycles of abuse are mixed with cycles of affection. The hot and cold dynamic, the push and pull, the love bombing followed by silence, it wires your brain to crave the very person who's hurting you. Why? Because every withdrawal creates pain, and every small return gives relief. That relief doesn't just feel good, it feels euphoric. It lights up the same dopamine pathways that addictive substances do. Think about it. If someone mistreats you and disappears forever, you eventually heal. But if someone mistreats you, then comes back with just enough kindness to soothe the wound, your brain gets trapped in a loop. Pain, relief, pain, relief. And soon, you're not just craving their love. You're craving the relief from the pain they created. That's why you keep chasing them. Not because you're weak, not because you don't know better, but because your biology has been hijacked. And here's the dangerous part. The worse they treat you, the stronger the bond can become, because the higher the pain, the greater the relief when they finally show you a crumb of affection. It's not love, it's chemical captivity. And once you're inside it, leaving doesn't just feel like walking away from a person, it feels like withdrawing from a drug. This is why so many people stay stuck for years. They confuse intensity for love. They confuse adrenaline for passion. They confuse trauma for attachment. But the truth is, real love doesn't make you feel enslaved. It doesn't leave you begging for scraps. Real love is steady, calm, and consistent. If you have to keep suffering just to experience brief highs, what you're in is not love, it's a trauma bond. And if you're nodding your head right now because you know exactly what I'm talking about, this is where I want to pause and speak directly to you. Breaking free from a trauma bonds hijack your nervous system, and more importantly, how to break free without losing yourself in the process. Think of it as a survival manual designed to pull you out of the fog and give you the clarity you've been missing. If this message is resonating with you, don't wait. Download Surviving the Toxic Bond today. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Because here's the truth. Nobody else can break this cycle for you. Nobody else can climb into your mind and rewire those patterns. But with the right tools, you can. And once you do, you'll realize the chains that felt so unbreakable were only illusions the entire time. One of the most overlooked reasons people chase someone who treats them badly isn't just emotional, it's ego. Your pride gets involved. Deep down, you know you deserve better, but your mind whispers, if I can make this person love me, it will prove my worth. It will prove I was enough all along. This is where the chase becomes less about them and more about you. It's not even about their love anymore. It's about what their validation would mean. You start seeing their affection as a trophy, as evidence that you finally measured up. That's why rejection from someone toxic can sting more than rejection from someone healthy, because your self-image becomes entangled with their opinion of you. Here's the trap. Narcissists and avoidant partners know this. They sense when you've made them the judge of your worth, and they exploit it. Every time they withhold affection, ignore your message or pull away, they're subconsciously reminding you that your value is on trial, and you'll do anything to win the verdict. You'll apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You'll overextend yourself. You'll silence your own needs just to avoid losing the case. But the truth? The trial doesn't exist. Your worth isn't something they get to hand out, yet your ego tricks you into believing that winning them back will fix everything you feel inside. That's why you might find yourself lying awake at night, rehearsing what you'll say, replaying arguments in your head, or imagining scenarios where they finally see your value. Here's the harsh reality. Even if you win them back, it won't heal you because you were never supposed to be on trial in the first place. Their inability to love consistently, their inability to treat you with respect, was never about you, it was about them. You chasing their approval is like running laps in a burning building. Even if you cross the finish line, the house still collapses. The stoic way to handle this trap is to step outside of it, to stop asking, "What would it mean if they loved me?" and start asking, "What does it mean that I'm chasing someone who doesn't?" That shift is where your power lies, because when you stop framing their validation as proof of your worth, you free yourself from the endless trial. You stop fighting battles that can never be won, and you start fighting for yourself instead. Think about it like this. Real strength isn't proven by bending someone else's will. It's proven by walking away from anything that diminishes yours. The ultimate victory isn't winning their affection. It's proving to yourself that you don't need it. What keeps most people locked in the cycle of chasing someone who treats them badly isn't the pain, it's the good moments. That one night when they looked at you like you were the only person in the world. That morning they held you a little longer than usual. That random text that made your stomach flip and reminded you of how good it could be. Those moments become emotional anchors. They're powerful because they're rare, they don't come often, and that scarcity makes them feel more valuable. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle casinos use. If you won every time you pulled the slot machine lever, you'd get bored. If you never won, you'd quit. But if you win sometimes, unpredictably, you get hooked. Toxic relationships operate the same way. The avoidant partner, the narcissist, the emotionally unavailable person, they know how to give just enough to keep you hooked without ever giving enough to make you secure. And your brain mistakes those crumbs for proof that love is possible, that the coldness is just temporary, that maybe if you wait a little longer, things will go back to how they were in that one perfect memory. But here's the trap. You start living in potential instead of reality. You replay that one moment of warmth like it's evidence that the coldness is just an illusion. You tell yourself, they can love me, they just need time, or if I don't give up, I'll get back to that version of them. The problem is that version isn't consistent. It's not sustainable. It's a mask they put on when they feel like it, and take off the second vulnerability or intimacy becomes too much. Stoic wisdom says, judge people not by their best moments, but by their consistent patterns. Anyone can be kind, loving, or attentive for a night. That doesn't make them reliable. That doesn't make them safe. What defines someone is what they repeat. If their repeated pattern is coldness, distance, or disrespect, that's who they are right now, no matter how intoxicating those rare highs feel. Think about how damaging this is. Every time you cling to the illusion of almost love, you give them power over your hope. You stop living in the present and start living in a highlight reel that plays only in your head. Meanwhile, they carry on with the same behavior while you wait around for a version of them that only appears when it suits them. The hardest step is accepting that the good moments aren't the real relationship, they're the bait. And until you see them that way, you'll keep mistaking crumbs for meals, scraps for substance, and almost love for the real thing. The truth is, love that hurts more than it heals is not love, it's control. And the only way to break free from that control is to stop mistaking inconsistency for depth. When someone is warm one moment and ice cold the next, it's not because they love you deeply, it's because they're keeping you hooked. And the moment you see that clearly, you stop chasing highs and start choosing peace. Every chase has a price. When you chase someone who treats you badly, that price is your self-worth. At first, you don't notice it. You think you're just fighting for love, proving your loyalty, showing them you care. But slowly, piece by piece, your dignity starts to leak away. You begin accepting behaviors you once swore you'd never tolerate. You excuse their silence. You downplay their disrespect. You tell yourself they're just stressed or scared or confused. But deep down, you know that if the roles were reversed, they wouldn't make the same allowances for you. And every time you justify their mistreatment, you reinforce the idea that your needs matter less than theirs. That's how chasing corrodes you. It rewires your mind to believe that love is something you must earn through sacrifice, that if you're just patient enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, eventually they'll recognize your worth. But in that equation, your worth becomes conditional. It exists only if they decide to validate it. That's not love. That's dependency. Stoic wisdom says, no one can strip your worth unless you hand it over. When you chase someone who devalues you, you're handing them the keys to your self-respect. You're letting their inconsistency dictate your sense of value. And once that happens, the power dynamic shifts. You stop being an equal and start being a servant to their moods, their availability, their validation. And here's the cruelest part. The more you chase, the less they respect you. People don't value what comes too easily. When you keep running after them despite their coldness, they don't see it as love. They see it as weakness. They learn that no matter how badly they treat you, you'll come back. And the moment someone knows that, the cycle deepens. But it's not just about how they see you, it's about how you start to see yourself. The mirror changes. You look at yourself and no longer see strength, independence, or pride. You see someone who bends, compromises, and lowers themselves just to keep someone else around. That shift is devastating because once you stop believing in your own worth, it becomes almost impossible to walk away. That's why breaking the chase is so important. It's not just about teaching them a lesson, it's about saving yourself. It's about reclaiming the dignity you've been giving away, one unanswered text, one dismissed boundary, one ignored need at a time. You have to ask yourself, what is the real cost of chasing them? Not just emotionally, but spiritually. How much of yourself are you willing to lose just to keep someone who keeps proving they don't value you? The chase doesn't just take your energy, it takes your identity. It convinces you that love means lowering yourself, when in truth, love should raise you higher. And until you see that, you'll keep paying a price that only leaves you empty. The good news? You can stop paying, you can stop chasing, you can choose right now to put your self-worth back in your own hands. And once you do, no one can take it from you again. At some point, you reach a crossroads. You can keep chasing, hoping that one day their coldness will thaw into love. Or you can finally stop running and face the truth, that the chase itself is the prison keeping you stuck. Breaking the cycle doesn't happen by accident. It requires a conscious decision to value yourself more than you value their approval. And that's where true freedom begins. The first step is clarity. You have to strip away the illusions they've spun around you. The promises of maybe one day, the occasional crumbs of affection, the apologies that never match their actions. Once you see these for what they are, hooks designed to keep you tied, you can start pulling them out, one by one. The second step is detachment, not emotional numbness, but discipline. You remind yourself daily that their silence is not your responsibility to fix. Their coldness is not proof of your inadequacy. Their inability to love properly is not a reflection of your worth. Detachment means you stop trying to change what is outside your control and instead you fortify what is within it. Your peace, your standards, your boundaries. And then comes the hardest step, action. You stop chasing. You stop waiting for the apology that may never come. You stop running back every time they dangle hope in front of you. Instead, you redirect all that energy you've been pouring into them, back into yourself. You rebuild the parts of you that were chipped away. You create a life so fulfilling that their presence becomes optional, not essential. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, you regain all the power you thought they stole from you, because in truth, they never took it. You just handed it over in the chase. The silence that once drove you crazy becomes your shield. The distance that once made you feel abandoned becomes the space where you heal. The absence that used to feel like rejection transforms into the very thing that saves you. Stoic wisdom says, the greatest victory is mastery over yourself. When you stop chasing, you prove, to them, but more importantly, to yourself, that your dignity is not negotiable, that your worth is not up for debate, that no one has the right to play with your peace of mind. And something else happens when you break the cycle. The illusion shatters for them too. They can no longer rely on the script where you always come back, always forgive, always fold. Suddenly, they're left to face the emptiness of their own actions without you there to absorb the damage. Whether they spiral or not is irrelevant. The point is, you're no longer their puppet. So when you feel that familiar pull, the urge to send the first text, to chase after the scraps, to reopen the door they keep slamming in your face, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Am I chasing them, or am I chasing the version of myself I lost along the way? The real flex, the real act of strength, is not in winning them back. It's in walking away with your self-respect intact. It's in choosing to build a life so solid, so full, that you never again feel the need to beg for the bare minimum. Breaking the chase isn't easy. It will feel unnatural at first, like breaking an addiction. But on the other side of that discomfort lies the version of you who no longer begs to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. And that's the ultimate liberation. If this video spoke to you, remember, you don't have to stay stuck in this cycle forever. You already have the tools within you to stop chasing and start reclaiming your peace. And if you've been watching up to this point, you already know where to go deeper. Don't forget to download Surviving the Toxic Bond. The link's right there in the description and the pinned comment. Keep it close, because it'll give you the structure and reminders you need when the urge to slip back hits. Before you go, make sure to like this video so more people who need it can find it. Drop a comment to share your thoughts or your story, and subscribe if you're ready for more Stoic lessons every week. And please, share this video with someone who might be stuck in the same trap. You never know whose life you might help shift. At the end of the day, the real victory isn't in changing them, it's in mastering yourself. That's where freedom begins, and that's how you win.